In case you don't know, we use Anchor to distribute our podcast. We love it because it's free, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. There's no minimum listenership to start earning money, if that's a goal for your podcast. And everything you need to make a podcast is in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started creating your own podcast.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So as we were talking before I hit record, it was a little bit funny to me that we were going to talk a little bit about like tips and tricks for being a good roommate based on some of our sour roommate experiences, because we were talking about some other things that go along with being like a person who rents their home. Yeah, I feel like maybe you and I both have some tales
Yeah.
about roommates.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say we've had some roommate experiences in our lives. And this is funny. We've never lived with each other.
No, except for very briefly when you and I both worked for Upward Bound.
Yep.
In their summer program.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think that we were the sane ones.
I would agree.
In that roommate setup.
Yes. I also feel like, I'm trying to think back. We had some really good roommates for that.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything.
I don't want to name any. I don't want to name names. We had the one roommate who had her boyfriend in all of the time. And that was an interesting dynamic. At least for me, not in a judgy way, but just it was weird. It was weird for me.
I can see how that would be the case. And also, I think part of the reason that I don't remember this as much, one, because it was a very long time ago.
Well, yeah.
Also because we were on opposite sides of that apartment.
Oh, right.
So I didn't, it didn't affect me the same way that it affected you. And then another added layer on that is I feel like you and I work opposite shifts. And so I think at that time I was not in the room. I was out. I was working because I did a lot of the afternoon stuff. Whereas I think you did morning, right?
Oh gosh. As you say, it's been too long. I think you're probably right, but I don't actually feel very confident.
I think that's just kind of how we, because there was always one evening that we had a really big thing that we had everybody, but I think for the most part, you did the morning.
Yeah, getting the breakfast, making sure that everybody got their breakfast and all of that stuff.
Got going for the day, and I was coming in the afternoon and make fun things happen. And yeah. So I think that's why I don't remember that as much. But overall, I remember that situation being not the same as some of our other roommate situations.
Yeah. I mean, and I think as an added, following that, I I had one other roommate, and that experience was so terrible that the only other roommate I've ever had is the person that I ended up marrying.
Mm,
So, and that experience for me was challenging in a variety of ways. One of the ways is that this roommate felt that paying for things was optional.
mm.
It wasn't. But like when we were roommates for our job, there wasn't really any like paying for things, right? Like housing was included as like a benefit of the job.
Right. And so were our meals. So really the only stuff that
Uh-huh.
we had to pay for was like any like snacks and stuff that we wanted. And I do recall there always being an abundance of snacks, which is not super
Yes.
surprising where I'm involved.
Yes. I mean, same.
I'm
Same.
just,
Right.
I'm remembering like drives for student senate across the state and just a massive amount of snacks in the van next, like in the middle of the
Right.
seats between me by
Mm-hmm.
me. Uh, um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
snacks fuel me.
Snacks are great.
They are. I think like I I have a thought, but I think it makes sense to kind of let you go through what you're going to share about your roommate situation. If you're not going to share any more, then I'll
Yeah.
go into what my thought is.
Yeah. No. So I'll dive right in here. So a friend and I moved to the Twin Cities. Actually, our rental company was great. I thought they were wonderful. So shout out to At Home Apartments because they were just super supportive through the whole thing. But because my roommate and I split the rent, they had our lease set up so that half the rent came out of my checking account and half the rent came out of her checking account, right? Like, and it was just like an automatic withdrawal. So we didn't have to be, like writing checks or anything like that. We moved in July, and in September, I got a phone call from them that said, "Hey, like we can't exactly tell, but half of your rent didn't get paid this month in September." And I went, "Oh my gosh, thanks for calling to let me know. Let me check my bank account to make sure that it wasn't on my end." It was not. And I submitted proof to them that, like the funds had been successfully transferred out of my account. So we knew that it was my roommate. This happened again in October, November, and then in December, they gave me a call when I was visiting my family for Christmas. And they said, "Hey, so it happened again." They're like, "Well, we can't keep doing this. So either we evict both of you, or you start paying all of the rent on your own." Now, as I think anybody who's listening to this podcast knows, and if you don't, you're about to find out, an eviction is basically worse for your record than almost anything else. It's worse than
Mhm.
bankruptcy. It's worse than like defaulting on payments. Like if you get evicted, you're basically never going to find another place to live ever again. So my roommate, her parents, in fact, lived around the corner from mine. And so I knew that she was also visiting her family for Christmas. So I called her, like, "Merry Christmas to both of us." And I said, "Don't come back. Like, just no. Here's the situation. You haven't been paying. I'll bring you your stuff," which I did. And then, yeah, for the rest of the lease, I paid the whole rent by myself. But during that same time, we had agreed, that we would just split all of the bills.
Mhm.
We didn't get an electricity bill for like 3 months. And so I finally called like not wanting our electricity to be shut off, because that
Mhm.
would be terrible. I called the company and I was like, hey, this is when we moved in. We haven't gotten a bill yet. Is like, but I'm new to adulting, so is this normal? And they were like,
Mhm.
oh shoot, no, it's not normal. We're so sorry, but we're gonna have to send you a bill for the last few months since you moved in. And I said, okay. So I went to my roommate and I said, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't get an electricity bill. They just sent us one. Here's your half. Uh, she wrote me a check. I went to the bank. Now we both banked with the same bank. And they said, I'm so sorry. We can't deposit this check. It's not a good check. I said, okay, thanks for letting me know. So I told my roommate, like, hey, I know that you are, like, we're both new to adulting, but I was also a little older than her. So I went to her and I said, I would like for you to know that writing a bad check is against the law. Like, it is technically a felony offense.
Mhm.
So please don't do it again.
Mhm.
Like, the honesty of others has saved you in this situation.
Mhm.
So that happened. We also agreed to split food. That did not happen. Or toiletries. We also had like a coin operated laundry, there in our building.
Mhm.
Where we agreed that we would both contribute like to the laundry fund. She ended up stealing from me to pay for actually, I'm not even sure what she was paying for. She said it was for the bus, but she also had like a bus pass through her school. So I have no clue what was going on there.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So like when I ended up kicking her out, like yes, it was stressful, but it was also like a giant relief
Mhm.
that like suddenly I was actually only feeding myself, and I just started donating plasma to pay for my laundry.
Oh.
So yeah, that was and then when my then boyfriend and I were looking for a place together, it was also super important to me with the laundry that we rented a place that had the laundry like in the apartment,
Mhm.
because I had an entire load of laundry that was stolen like late in the lease.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. I always washed all my underwear separately in like a delicate cycle. That's what got stolen. I'm not really sure. Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
not really sure that I ever knew that that's what it was.
Yeah, all my underpants. They were all gone.
That that's creepy. The word is
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
creepy.
yeah. Also frustrating for me because, right,
Yeah.
as you might imagine, during this time I really didn't have any
Mhm.
money. And it turns out you can't actually go to like a Goodwill
No.
and buy underwear.
Mm-mm.
Like I could have, gone to a secondhand place if like a load of my regular clothes had been stolen.
Right.
So yeah, that was uh so from my experience, my advice to anybody who is looking for a roommate, pay for your own stuff.
Mhm.
And please be aware that writing a bad check is a felony offense.
Right. I feel like so I'm trying to think. I think it was around the same time that we were having these roommate situations.
All right, because you were living in like dorms
Yes.
at this
Yes.
in like 2009.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have never lived with roommates not in a dorm. Like that's, let's just start with that. So I did not pick my roommates. My roommates were chosen for me. I also didn't have the added stress then of them not paying for like our like basic necessities such as like rent or electricity or any of those things. So like that
Yeah.
that level of the situation was removed for me, which thank goodness.
Right.
And in the interest of time, I'm going to keep mine very short because
I'm so
we
sorry. I really went
no
off, didn't I?
no, it's totally fine. This is one of those, if you're ever very curious, ask us in Discord about more roommate stories, because between the two of us, we have stories for days.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So at this time, I also had a pretty just wild roommate experience, and I can't even do it justice in the short amount of time. So we'll skirt right past that. But I did have many summers of experience living with other people that I didn't know particularly well, and also again didn't pick because I was in Upward Bound as a child. And part of that experience is you stay during the week in the summers. And so part of the Upward Bound experience is students have the opportunity to live with people, to live away from home, to kind of start building some of those skills. And honestly, you've probably heard at this point that I very much so support the Upward Bound programs. That is one of the reasons why the trio programs in general are really great. Upward Bound specifically is a really good program. The only thing I wish that they would do is stop putting such a focus on the 4-year degrees. But everything else, it's a really great program because it does give people the opportunity to build some of those skills. I had some wild roommate situations, and I think that it was less of a shock because I'd already lived with people in a setting very similar. And so I was like, yep, this stuff happens. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, what is happening in the world right now?
Right.
But I also, like, I could never have mentally prepared for some of the things that happened with that roommate situation. Like, it was just, there were so many pieces of it that I was like, did not see that coming.
Right.
With one particular person. 2 of them were great. One of them I was like, okay. I often wonder how they're doing in life.
Yes. Yes.
So I would definitely, if you are a parent and your children have the opportunity to go live in a situation with people in the summer, like for an Upward Bound or for like some sort of a summer camp type thing, well worth it. Gives them some skills that you don't really think about until all of a sudden your kids no longer live with you and you're like,
Oh, I could have done better there, maybe.
interesting. And I have never lived, like I've never lived alone. I think there's been a month span in my life as an adult where I've lived alone. Otherwise, I've always lived with other people. And I'm very thankful for those experiences. I would also encourage, if you have the opportunity to live alone, give it a shot. You build some other great skills in those times.
Yeah. I think actually I have a lot to say about that. We should maybe do a whole other episode on
Yeah, who knew? Roommates, man.
living alone, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's important to learn to live by yourself too.
It is. I definitely, yeah, we should probably do another episode on that. Well, anyway, as always, if you want to continue this conversation, chat with us in Discord. We are on Mastodon, although I admittedly am very bad at checking it because it was part of my routine for a little bit, then it kind of fell off. So I'll start checking it again.
It's a real millennial challenge, incorporating new social media into your existing social media routine.
It is, especially when so many of us are moving away from like social media in general.
Mm, mhm, mhm. Yep.
Yep.
But if you, like us, are also moving away from social media, feel free to send us an email as
Yes.
well. It is checked at least weekly.
Mhm. Yep.
And our email address is in the show notes.
Yeah.
Along with all the other things that we just mentioned.